everybody for coming out. I want to start off by saying, when you get home and your neighbors say this wasn't on Channel 17, we believe Squirty Squirrel has been doing his mischief again. It is not being live broadcast on 17. However, since this is an informational presentation and not a board meeting, we're going to do our first shot at a recording and then playing it later for the residents. Today what we are doing is, let me back up. Back in April, the board made the decision to request that the city be able to patrol our roads and have the full rights on our roads as they do everywhere else in Leesburg. We signed the paperwork. It went to, Sherry, who did it go to? Chief Hicks? To the attorneys. At any rate, this is the next step in the process. And let me introduce the panel that we have here today. We have Al Minner, City Manager. Wave your hand real high. Okay. We have Jay Connell, our City Commissioner. He's the guy that took Elise's place. Then we have two of LPD's, Leesburg Police Department's finest. We have Nick Romanelli, Lieutenant. And we have Chief Hicks. What we're doing here today is they are here to give us information, to give us facts about what this means to Legacy. And then you are open for questions. Questions, not rants, not I like it, no I don't like it, a question. I think would be the most appropriate thing. Please be respectful. And Chief Hicks, are you the talker? Who's leading off? Okay, I'm gonna hand it off to one of them.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off just kind of with some basics of functions, and then Chief can give you the technical parameters on all the law enforcement stuff. And Commissioner Cannell is one of our city commissions. So the city we operate, as probably most of y'all know, in a commission manager form of government. The request that was before us from the Arlington Ridge, I guess HOA, Legacy. I know you guys are across the street. Was to make the streets public. Okay, so let's talk about that a second. A public versus private street. Typically, in communities like Leesburg, most of our streets are public. So that means the city owns the street and the right-of-way that's in the street, whether that right-of-way 20, 40, 60, 100 feet. So in that right-of-way, the city operates roads, utilities. As it comes now to a police matter, we then have law enforcement responsibility in that public street where we patrol it for speeding and those type of typical things. As the city has grown, and it's not an atypical municipal corporation issue, you have communities like Arlington Ridge or Legacy that have annexed into the city, and you have other city services besides the police protection for an inducement into why you would want to incorporate the fire services, the emergency services, the planning purposes, the land development regulations that come along that make you separate from the urban, non-incorporated areas versus a municipal area. A lot of times when big communities like Arlington Ridge or Legacy come into the municipal corporation, they keep the streets private. That provides an ambiance where your development is more secure, you're a little bit more isolated, and for lack of better words, keep out the riffraff, which is, what communities like Legacy want to do, which is cool. The inverse side of that equation is some of the other municipal services, like the full force of the police, where they patrol your streets, doesn't occur. But remember, patrol your streets for traffic enforcement, and I'll let Chief get into that, versus it's something, you use the word felony, there's different levels of that. So the request came to us, I guess that was back in April, to get your streets to become public so that you can have law enforcement. There's also a level of public street to whereby the city would maintain your street. So if you got a pothole, instead of calling the HOA, you would call the city. That, as I understand it, has not been brought before us, it's just the police side of this. The city received overwhelmingly negative opposition to that. So when Chief brought this issue to me, and basically the HOA got in touch with Chief brings that to me, I generally tee it up then for the commission. And the action there was a resolution, which would need to be approved by the commission, so you need 3 votes from the city commission to approve a resolution that would modify how the status of your streets are. So once Chief got with you all, he brought that to me, we received an immense amount of negative feedback. So my response was, before we bring this to the commission, because the commission will react based on what's before them typically, not always, right? Not always, but on a matter like this, that's not a typical matter, there's the generally case would be that if there's 100 people who live somewhere, but only 10 showed up before the body when they're making the decision that was adamantly opposed to this, the commission will then react on the public input that's before them. The HOA board felt like, no, there's the preponderance of need for this. So my suggestion back to Chief and got funneled back was, well, let's have a community meeting with Legacy before we bring the matter before the board. So the purpose of today is to discuss the nuances of making the streets public for police purposes. And I think that reasonably outlines why we're here. So I would, Rob, why don't you get into we put together the resolution that's a draft model of what we would do if this would be approved. So that would be, you describe now what currently occurs in private streets versus what's proposed to happen in a public street in Legacy, as we've got that.
Come on in. Hey, welcome. I'm glad I'm not in an elected position because I've lost 2 votes.
No, you haven't. Not yet.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, like Al was saying, we received quite a few emails. Typically, and we understand this, and I was speaking with the HOA and with Sherry a little bit, we get, when someone reaches out to me, it's generally complete opposition or undying praise. For those of you who are indifferent, you usually don't reach out, or probably not in this room because you didn't care to come. So we get a lot of that too. So, but in those emails, there was some misunderstanding of what it is that we already do, what we can do, and what's being proposed for us to do. So as far as police interaction in the Legacy, we patrol, any crimes that occur, any trespassing, any of that stuff, we already do. I think there was a misunderstanding that we don't come in here to do any kind of enforcement activity, and we do. Now, fortunately for you guys, it's not very often. You guys have a wonderfully safe community, we love it, and so it is not very much at all that we're having to do any criminal stuff, but we are available to do all those things. When it comes to traffic enforcement, there are levels of traffic, right? So there's civil citations, which are speeding, running a stop sign, those kind of things. But there's also criminal traffic. That's reckless driving, it's DUI, it's those kind of things. We have the right to enforce that on private property in the state of Florida. So if it was a criminal situation, we would do that. So what we're talking about now is running a stop sign, going over the posted speed limit, and what it boils down to, from what I can tell from the emails and from some of the people I've talked to, it's essentially the couriers that are coming in and out, package delivery, this is being recorded so I'm not naming the company, that are exceeding the speed limit on the main roads. And so it would give us the availability to do traffic enforcement. Now with that being said, you know, I don't want to make any false promises. So we are 50 square miles. We are a very busy police department. We have more calls for service than Claremont has, and they're probably almost twice our population. So we're a busy police department. So you're not gonna have a police officer in here running traffic indiscriminately for long periods of time. They'll be in here just as much as we are in some of the other neighborhoods, but you know, the South End is growing. I got some emails about that as well, and yes, there will be additional police officers as the South End continues to grow. Now, it does entitle us or allow us to, sometimes when you're having special events, you'd be able to hire a detail officer to come in and do traffic enforcement to keep people safe in and around the area, because right now we couldn't do that. We could post a car, but as the car, as Al said, it runs a stop sign and waves at us. As long as they use all 5 fingers, we're fine. So, one of the good points that was brought up was about traffic crashes, right? And so that is a benefit for some of the residents. Now, I don't know how many traffic crashes that have been called in here. I don't know that it's been a big number, but what it allows us to do, right now, if there's a fender bender out on the street, we could issue you an exchange of information, right? Anyone has access to one of those. We could help you fill it out or whatever the case may be. But Florida is a no-fault state. So you take that, give it to your insurance company, they give theirs to theirs, and then the insurance companies fight it out. With traffic enforcement ability, we could then do a traffic crash report where we fill it out and then you pick it up and send it to your insurance company. There's pros and cons to that. It is a formalized document stating what happened. But quite honestly, it's us telling a story of what you said happened and what the other person said happened. And more times than not, the insurance company makes their own determination. Unless the officer witnessed what happened, they're just gonna kind of do whatever it is they want to do. So there's advantages, there's pros and cons to both sides of that. And I think those are the key elements. I just wanted to clear up that we still are available for you guys for everything except those, except writing the minor citations. Is there anything that I missed discussing?
You actually cleared up a couple things for me, so.
Yeah, I think that. Just to reiterate, you now have the right.
Can't hear you.
I just want to reiterate, you do now, which surprised me, you do now have the right to write a ticket for DUI.
Yes.
So,
That's
if
correct,
people
that's
are
correct.
excited and thinking all of a sudden, you're gonna be out here writing DUIs, you can do it anyway, okay.
And you can get a DUI on a golf cart. You can get even though you don't have a golf cart.
Hey, do this, because I use the word felony. Give examples of what is a criminal motor vehicle violation and what is a non-criminal motor vehicle.
I'm glad you asked, Al. So, the best example.
Sarcasm is really welcome in our office.
I don't think the commissioner's big on it, but.
No, except every other, second and fourth Monday, no sarcasm.
All right, so the best example of that is the difference between careless and reckless driving. Careless driving is a civil infraction. That means you were driving down the road, maybe going too fast, and you were adjusting your radio, or you were goofing around, or looking out the side, not looking at your golf course. Not that I'm bitter about that. Can you guys get a golf course? All right, so, and then you run into something. That's careless driving. Reckless driving is you're late for work, you don't care who's in your way, you're gunning it, you're swerving around people, and you smack into somebody because of what you were doing. It was willful and wanton. The outcome was predictable by your actions. So that's the biggest difference, criminal versus non-criminal traffic. There's some other, DUI is an example of criminal, any of the criminal traffic.
Reckless DUI.
Yeah, those are the two big ones. So that's the big,
Speeding over 25, 30.
yeah, excessive speeding. So somebody's, and keep in mind too, we have this issue downtown, and I'm not minimizing the speeding issues, but so the speed limit downtown is 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So it used to be 25. right? And so people now go 25 or 30, which used to be only 5 over the regular speed limit that you can't get a ticket for, and they're doubling the speed limit. And when you're standing very close, that looks like you're going a million miles an hour. But then when we put radar on it, we're like, okay, well, they're going 25, which used to be the speed limit. So that can be a misnomer. One of the things that we can do too, and we always offer this, we can set up our traffic. We have a covert and an overt traffic radar situation. So we put one and we put it on the road, you can't tell what it is, and then we pull like a week or 2 weeks worth of data, and it tells you who's speeding, if every car that goes by, how fast they're going, when they're going. So if it was package delivery, we could say, okay, between these hours, we do see people that are doing that. And that helps us do a traffic analysis. I use that in communities where we do write tickets because I know strategically when to put my motorcycles out. Because I know one guy is speeding when he comes home from work. So I set my motor cop out there, he writes him a ticket, and then that calms it down for a little while. So those tools are helpful for us, but we don't just use it for enforcement. It can also provide you guys with information to see the degree of problem that you might have. Because keep in mind, when somebody's saying that they're seeing somebody speeding, or people are speeding all the time, when you boil it down, how often are you out in front of your house? Not that often. But when you are, and you see a car going, and every time you're out there, you see a car speeding, you extrapolate that there's cars speeding all the time. Well, maybe you're always out there at 2:30, and this guy's always coming home from wherever at 2:30, and so that can be a little bit of a problem as well. But that's just some of the things that we've experienced in some of the other neighborhoods, to include Arlington Ridge, and we address that in different ways. So, are we ready for some questions or people who don't understand? And yes, please save rants for Facebook.
So yeah,
That's
we're
the
gonna do this
appropriate
like
one.
this. I know it's kind of tight in here. I was hoping we had a little bit more space, but if you have questions, you're more than welcome to come up in an orderly fashion and just ask questions. Anything is open, so feel free to come up. You can come up one at a time, or you can form a little line if that helps. God, I mean, don't wait for me to appoint you. Come on up.
This isn't so much a question as we sort of touched on when we talked about vendors. Rich, you're not hearing.
Yeah, you're not here anymore. Pretty clear.
It's on, you just have to talk into it.
You touched on this a little bit earlier when you talked about FedEx and UPS and those guys coming in and out of here. There's a group of people that walk really
No,
early
I
in the morning.
understand exactly what you're
My
saying.
wife and I are usually, we leave the house right around 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still dark out, but we need a lot of people out that early in the morning. The newspaper delivery people are far and away the worst offenders. They come through here. Anyway, if you're gonna do this, you might wanna come and park on Meandering around 5 o'clock in the morning.
Those poor guys, they don't make enough money.
Yeah, that's okay, but I don't wanna get run over by one of them, you know?
If I can follow up on that, why are you up at 5 o'clock in the morning?
It's the retired life.
My question is, Mr. Brown, my name is Dan, I sent you an email a few weeks ago, and you responded to it.
Yes.
You indicated that you have, in your email from that committee, that you were not in favor of this as well. Will the commissioners, if this goes to a vote in front of the commissioners, will they require a vote of all 1,800 residents before this takes place, before this goes any further? And second, will they take into account that there's an election about to happen in 2 months? And the board as it exists now, may not be the same makeup in 2 months, they may get voted out of office, there's a recall going on, will they take that into consideration as well?
Well, I can't speak to the other members. I would take in consideration, I'm here to represent the people of District 3, and, whatever the majority of what they want. What I'm hearing today is a little different than what my original understanding was of what was being requested. I will take in consideration everything, but the biggest thing I would take into consideration is what does the majority of Legacy want? I will tell you, as Al said earlier, the majority of the responses we got back leading up to this meeting was overwhelmingly against doing this.
Correct. But those are just emails that you got. I'm asking, formal vote has never been taking place among the residents. No survey, no vote. Are you going to require that before you make a decision?
Yes, you would, honestly, it would be beneficial to me, but I don't know we could require that, or I guess we could ask for it if that's what we wanted to do. And honestly, I think that would be beneficial to me on making a
We all think
decision.
it's a good idea too.
Yes, absolutely, and I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I want to take Commissioner Cannell off the hot seat a little bit, because again, the commissioner can only answer how he would vote.
Right.
Okay, so that's where, if I can represent the commission as a body, which, that's my job, and then they vote. So formality purposes is no, an entire vote of the HOA is not required to make this change. The legal change is the approval of the resolution, which we have in draft form, which we just discussed. And if 3 commissioners vote for that, then that would become the arrangement. The practicality in that is there's a lot of feedback that goes in there. So so we've got to speak in generalities. So I've worked for the commissions for 25 years, and commissions typically respond to the public input that's before them. So even if you did, like commissioners suggest, which would be helpful, if you did a legacy-wide vote and Sherry, you gave that vote to Sherry. Sherry came before the commission and said, we did a vote of 1,500 residents and it passed 1,000 in favor and 500 against. That's overwhelming support. And you would think that that would supersede negativity. My suggestion for you, though, is that if this is something that you would want, and you arm Sherry with the vote of, let's make it even worse. Let's say it's 1,499 to 1 in favor of doing this. But then 50 people show up before the commission, and you got poor Sherry hanging out there. Well, we did this vote, but then everybody's got 3 minutes, and they're sitting before the board saying no, 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 no. That's where commissioners are like, ugh. So you might get a no vote out of that. So my suggestion is, whatever you want, it needs to be clear. And the reason that this didn't get before the commission was because of all the no. It was no, 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 no. We got, I don't know how many emails, and the commissioners saw the email traffic, then they call me or they call chief, what's going on? We said, we got this, and the last thing we wanted to do is bring the commission an agreement that changes operations. And the change that you're asking for it's not a big change, but procedurally, it's a significant deal, because now there could be other private subdivisions who want to do the deal. So it has some consequence, I think, is a reasonable way to say it. So, and if we've got 100 no's and a referendum, then the commissioners are going to be in a spot where it's like, they don't have a win, and then typically they're going to respond to what they see, feel, and hear, which is no, and that could overwhelm the referendum vote. So what my suggestion is if you do a referendum, it really is going to be incumbent upon this area to make sure that the audience before the commission is reflective of the results of that referendum.
Well, before it goes to the commission though, wouldn't the fact that you got overwhelming negative responses so far, why would you want to go vote anyway?
That's what I'm saying. That's why we're here.
How do we make that happen?
Frankly, if the result of today is 50 people sitting in this room, or 100, is no, I'm gonna tell Sherry, I'm not gonna bring that to the city commission. Okay? Now, if there's still, now mind you, you guys talked about that, but Sherry's sitting there saying, I'm talking to 3 times as many people outside this room. You're leaving her with the, how do I manage this? So
No way.
So that, hold on. So that becomes you all to let Sherry know that you guys don't want this, and that's everybody.
We have.
You can tell her all day long she wants to
Based
live.
on the response here is exactly why it hasn't gone to the city commission. Because the chief and I are getting conflicting information. We have the boo birds, and I don't mean that in a bad way, and so I'll use better words. We have the folks who don't want this to go public. You want to keep your private street, but you have your HOA manager saying, we've got
No, you've got
the board.
You've got residents
The
coming to
HOA
the board.
we got the HOA board saying, we want public streets. We have email traffic and citizen participation that says, no, we don't. And my response has been, we're gonna follow what what I think is gonna come before the commission, which is the body saying, no public streets.
Okay, couple of thoughts here. Thank you very much for your service, first of all. I work at Leesburg Hospital, so I see what you bring into us, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you for taking.
We're so grateful for you, you have no idea, and I understand the burden that you people have out there, and the increased burden with what is going on out there, so thank you ever so much for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely, most definitely, it's amazing what you guys do, it's incredible, so I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Back to my questions. Okay, so situation here, this will then come, if whatever occurs today, would come to a meeting, at the Commissioners Board meeting, and an evening, what are they, Monday evenings, every 2 weeks or something?
Second and fourth Monday.
Okay. So whatever happens today would then come to you in front of the commissioners to vote yea or nay. Is that correct?
My reaction would be that if the overwhelming sentiment in this room is that you do not want your streets to become public,
Okay.
then I would not process the draft resolution.
You would not even go further?
I would not.
Okay.
Now,
Let me
then,
finish, can I finish my answer?
yep,
Okay.
yep.
As a resident here, I have witnessed people going through stop signs, going through and not even stopping at stop signs, not using their signals, whether it's in a vehicle or in a golf cart vehicle. Okay? I think most people have common sense. Not everybody, and some most people. I think we should focus on that. I have done an AARP classes. I'm sure many other people here have done the AARP classes. You know, whether or not we have this, I understand they are here for many traffic coming into our community. To open it up is not an issue that I look forward to. We have not, as a community, other than speaking with our board members or speaking with our CAM, have voiced the concerns of speeding, stopping, etc., traffic violations that are out there. We have not had an actual official vote taken or a survey taken to find out what the opinion is of every single member that lives here. That has not occurred. And because that has not occurred, I believe that's why we have as many people as we have here today. And that is why, because I voice a negative opinion on it. I appreciate my police for what they do. They don't need to be here. They have so much more else to do. Smash and grabs. More domestic violence I see coming to the hospital. More assaults coming from the hospital. Children coming into the hospital.
What's the question?
So this is what I feel. But if there were, it would go to a meeting with you in an evening where as many people as here today or whatever can come and voice a yay or a nay, correct?
Yes.
And based on that, if it were to come to you, then you would make a referendum and have it actually put into action. Is that correct? Or not? Or
No, you threw the word referendum in there, which threw me off, so.
Okay,
the-
change that word.
Yeah, so
Okay.
what would come before the city commission to make the streets public
Right.
would be a resolution.
Okay, change the word referendum resolution. That resolution, now how far as that notice for that meeting? Now, how do we know as a group here in Legacy know that that meeting is going to happen
Right.
so that we can be there?
Okay, a resolution does not require a legal publication like an ordinance.
Okay,
But every meeting of the city commission is advertised with an agenda. So you would
Okay.
need to monitor our website or
Okay.
the clerk's office
okay.
to watch the agendas. Most of you do anyway. So-
No, not anymore.
So you would only see when the resolution is coming, if you kept in touch and watched our publicized agendas.
So that we could be there.
Yes.
Okay.
But with this issue, it's pretty hot button, so we would keep in touch with the HOA, and Sherry would probably,
Notified of that.
and Sherry would get you that information out that this resolution is coming to the city.
She does not notify us.
It hasn't come before the city commission, you asked a procedural
I
question,
did.
that would be the process.
Okay, that's great. Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Feel like I send out notice at this meeting?
Can I say one thing, and I'm getting the overall,
That nobody likes me?
so, no. I get that every day, so, the process in which, or the manner in which this community is coming to the decisions has nothing to do with us, and we get that there's frustration in the room. But while we're here, can we talk about the facts, and can we talk about what will happen or won't happen and procedures and stuff like that? And, you know, let's not take shots at people, and I get the innuendo and stuff. So let's just talk about the facts and what will happen and what may or may not happen, and then kind of go from there if we can do that. That'd be great. That wasn't directed at you, by the way. Or maybe it is, I don't know what you got there.
I just want to say thank you guys for coming out and taking your time, valuable time. So thank you very much for addressing us as a group. I'm asking for a friend.
What's his number? I'm gonna call him
We
Ray.
have 27,000 friends.
That's right. Okay, so first question that my friend had, the money that would be generated from the tickets that are issued, does that money stay within the Legacy community?
It goes to the government. It doesn't even stay with us. Well, like this month, $2, so you get $150.
All right, here's how a citation works. And I won't call it a ticket. A uniform traffic citation works this way. If it's a $100 ticket, which there aren't any anymore, they're all $200 and $300. But if there was a $100 ticket, the state gets 49% of it. The county gets 51% of it. The county, not the city. The county gets 51%, and we, the police department, get $2.
Oh, my God.
No, wait a minute.
Not even
It goes
in the
to
general
in the
fund.
general fund, but it goes to training. It's called
is
the,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's called the second dollar fund, $2 per ticket, and that goes towards training. But that's how in the state of Florida, that's always how it's broken up. So, for example, even if a highway patrol issues a ticket within a municipality or within a county, that county gets half, basically half of it, and the state gets half of it. So no, it's not a money-making idea for you guys.
Okay, so that answers that. Ticketable offenses, assume if you get pulled over for whatever infraction, speeding, ran a stop sign, if we're not driving around with our driver's license and our bathing suit, could be a ticket for that. No seatbelts being worn and the officer observed that there's not a seatbelt being worn, could be a ticket, could be pulled over for that ticket.
That's correct.
Just for that.
Yes.
Okay. How many people own golf carts in here? A few?
I always wear my seatbelt.
I don't think you need a seatbelt. No.
License plates for golf carts?
No.
That's a good answer.
Only if you're on a street that goes 35, or then it has to be the golf cart has to meet a bunch of specifications.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't give up the right to use your, a non-registered golf cart in the community just because it's a way of
Okay.
enforcement.
Thank you very much for your answers. I'll let my friends know.
Fun fact, you can also get a DUI on a horse. Sounds good.
You know, if that happened over here, the revolution may never happen.
Another fun fact, I did a DUI on a guy on a horse about 25 years ago. We took the horse. The guy wasn't.
Again, thank you all for coming here and enlightening us. And I have no friends. Before I came to Legacy, I lived in 4 of the gated communities, all with private roads, all with no police function within the community. And I don't remember any real problems. I got hit once within one of those communities. It was icy, it was in the winter. Young girl was driving from the side street, I was coming up the main road. She couldn't stop, she slid in the back of my car. Fortunately, nobody got hurt, and we didn't even call the police. We just exchanged information, and it was settled by the insurance companies. That being said, a point of information. We are surrounded by Hawthorne and Windstorm and all of these other communities. How many of those communities have police presence, have public roads?
So the majority, so Hawthorne is not in the city limits, but they are in county jurisdiction. So county has patrol rights in there. Arlington Ridge is in the city, Windsong is in the city, some of those others. Windsong is private roads.
Highways?
Yeah, that's in the county. I think so because they're gated, they're completely gated. So Arlington Ridge, and some people don't understand the difference in a gated community like the Villages that is coming in, they're a gated community. However, they're a, what is it, the CDD, right? Community Development District.
Mm-hmm.
So they can have a gate, they can have a guard, but they can't prevent your access. They can get your license plate on a license plate reader, they can ask you for a name, you don't have to give it. So the difference on a private, the plantation is private. If you don't show them your driver's license, they won't let you in, and they have the right to do that. You guys have the right to do that here too. You don't have it gated out front, but you could if you wanted to. You reserve the right to do that. And you can have people not come in anytime you want. In like the Villages or those others, anyone can come through your area. So with that being said, we don't work any more crashes or speeding, or we get, every once in a while from Arlington Ridge, we'll get some complaints about running stop signs in the golf cart and that sort of thing. But there's not any more in any of these surrounding areas than there is here in Legacy that we're aware of. Because we do get the calls of people speeding up and down, and we inform them of that.
No, my question was how many of them have private roads and how many have public roads?
So I don't know, the ones that are not in the city, I'm not sure.
Well, the ones that are.
The ones that are in the city, that I can tell you, Windsong is private. Plantation's just outside the city, they're private. I think there's a couple of smaller, real small HOAs that are private, like a couple of the trailer parks are private roads, but for the most part, everything else is public.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. We keep on using the terminology public versus private. If our roads within the gates become public, how does that affect the gate system? Can anybody from the public come through our community?
So that is looking at the understanding of the contract, because there are two different things at bed. What Mr. Minner just alluded to before was, if you're making the roads public, completely public, that means we take them over. We do fix potholes. That's not what's being asked. What's being asked from this community is an exception to give us permission to do enforcement. That doesn't change the fact that the roads are still officially private. It just gives us the authority to do traffic enforcement on the private roads, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so we can keep the gates.
Yes, you can, even public places can have gates as well. But yes, you
When you
can,
talk about the roads within Legacy, are we talking about meandering trails or every road in Legacy?
it would be, it's all or nothing. Yeah, it's all or nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am?
That was really kind of my question. I was wanting to know if it was the city taking over. I was wanting to know also if
She's rolling her eyes at you guys.
if they would take over maintenance and that changes the tax, and also the gates was my question. So
Yeah.
not anybody can just get.
No.
Okay.
So what is specifically in that MOU that was being asked of us is an exception to enforce traffic, nothing else. And from what we read, it doesn't change any other part of what's going on here. And I don't, again, what we received and was being asked of me when I spoke with Mr. Minter was completely reasonable. There was no, I wasn't like, oh wow, this is gonna be a big burden or whatever. And that's why I'm indifferent. If you guys want it, we'll do it. If you don't, because it's not gonna be a huge burden on us. I wouldn't need to ask for more cops. It's not gonna increase anybody's taxes or anything like that. But I also understand why some people want the roads to be private. Some people moved here because of that. So I understand both sides, and I'm completely, and I think Mr. Minter, we had enough conversations, he's the same way. If you guys all want it, we'll do it. If you don't, we won't. We're good.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, and I think Rob and I agree on this too, and that doesn't take away anything from what the police does. It's just, I think Rob and I, that we would express to the commission as well, if the commission asked us, is an unrealistic expectation. If they're in the FedEx guy who's 5 in the morning watching the FedEx truck, my concern is that if you go with an exception to allow civil patrol or what's the word I'm looking for? Civil infraction traffic control given to Leesburg so that the police department patrols your streets, that will stop the FedEx guy. It's not going to. And in case in point is that same FedEx guy who speeds through Arlington Ridge speeds down Main Street. And sometimes we catch him and sometimes we don't. We give traffic citations out all the time, and you still have speeders. So if the thought there is that if we get the cops in to come in and patrol, then we'll be even more safe and all the wrongs will go away, not gonna happen. So that's our biggest concern. That is our number one concern is, okay, we're happy to patrol your streets. We're happy to give civil violations for your streets, but we're not gonna add more cops and we're not gonna fix all the woes.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. John Harvey. My question is probably these two gentlemen, how will this may affect our taxes if this becomes public roads? Thank you.
It won't, it won't for the city of Leesburg. The city of Leesburg maintains and operates the police department. The police department is funded through the general fund. The general fund is funded through general revenues of the city. General revenues of the city are sales taxes, property taxes is the big one, state shared revenues and those type of things. People who live in Legacy already pay the city municipal property tax, which is about 4.1228 mils. So that's 4.1 mils per thousand of assessed value. So if the streets would become public for civil patrol, your taxes would not increase as a result of that resolution. But did you catch that? As a result of that resolution. There may be something else that makes your taxes go up, but not that. But in all seriousness, the commission's been extremely conservative. I've been here, 8 years now, and we have not raised taxes. In fact, they've gone the other way.
Amen.
Hi, good afternoon. And my question is for Chief Hicks. Thanks for all of you for being here. Do you think that we need this done?
Oh, that's my favorite question. That's a rough question.
Give me one moment. All right, it literally is what I said before. I think there's a misnomer about private public. And I'm not gonna correct my boss in any way. He's way smarter than I am, because he hired me. So, it doesn't make the roads per se public. It's an exemption to the privacy rule, so it gives us the right to enforce it. It literally, I don't want either one. I understand both people's feelings, right? I think there's a value add to having us do some enforcement, not because we get, I don't need your $2. But there are some benefits to the citizens, and I will tell you what one of the benefits are. And again, with the traffic crashes, insurance companies don't necessarily care what we say, so I kind of get that. But I will tell you, if you're involved in a traffic crash in an unincorporated county, you're gonna wait there for 2 hours until the trooper is available, because the county doesn't work traffic crashes for the most part. So the same would be here. If you were adamant about it, and I definitely want it, you'd wait, the trooper's still gonna tell you they can't do it. So there's an advantage to living in the city, right? So we work traffic crashes, we handle that stuff for you, so that helps. And on the downside of it, yeah, some residents are gonna get tickets because we can't just target newspaper and courier people. And that tends to make people really mad when they get a ticket, because they weren't speeding. So everybody else was speeding, but they're never speeding. So the downside of it is I'm gonna get more complaints from residents saying, how dare you, because I voted for this, and then you wrote me a ticket. And I say you shouldn't have voted for it. So, I mean, that's it. So it does not matter to me one way or the other. I don't think anything catastrophic is going to happen in this community if it stays status quo, nor do I think anything catastrophic is going to change if we move forward with it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thanks for being here today. I'm opposed, I'm gonna say that right up front. I've been on Highway 27, I've been on Highway 48. On 48, I get passed all the time in a double yellow situation. 27, we do have a Corvette, by the way. 27, I'm being passed all the time there too. I think our community is relatively safe. It's safe. I would rather see our police departments working outside to make the greater outside of our community safe. Which then for makes us safer. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and for giving us information. I have just 2 questions. First of all, how often would these patrols take place?
Oh, that's a direct question. First of all, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
So it random unless requested by specific things. Like, so you guys had a garage, or like a community yard sale. So you guys had an officer that came for that, but they couldn't do any traffic enforcement stuff, which is a lot of times what we're asked to do. So whenever your community wanted an extra detail, it would be Lieutenant Romane schedules those. We do that all the time for different areas. But as far as normal traffic enforcement, you're not going to see them that often.
Okay, and would it impact anything other than motor vehicles, say bicycles, pedestrians?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's everything. We have a disproportionate amount of traffic homicides, and what I mean by that is people being run over by cars. Almost exclusively the fault of the pedestrian, just walking out in the traffic. You guys heading north on 27 up towards Walmart at night, especially if you're out and you see somebody standing in the road wearing all black, and so that happens a lot. And so, yeah, when we enforce traffic, we do bicycles and pedestrians, because a lot of times, it literally, the smaller your vehicle, the less you pay attention to the rules of the road, and then the more jeopardy you put people in. Like golf carts, they slow down at stop signs, don't really stop. Bicycles don't even, they look and pick up through there, right? So that's how that goes. But so we would, law enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank y'all for your service. Personally, as family and law enforcement.
We can't hear you.
I thank the gentlemen for being here and for what they do. I am the previous gentleman's friend and had another one. So far, most of the conversation has been about traffic. And I have a question non-traffic. But I guess I have the opportunity to say that I'm surprised, I don't know of anybody getting hit, but we have as most of the other 55 communities, I'm sure you're familiar with, we have a lot of people walking, we have a lot of people walking dogs, a lot of people riding bikes, we have a lot of golf carts. Probably wasn't anticipated when this development started or as others. So I would like to ask everybody to reconsider either way that we don't want to wait till we have a problem. And this seems like a good answer to have y'all control, which is my second question. Really, this is the question. I hear you say patrol. We talk about traffic. Well, is there an anticipated, police officers would routinely come, pinning, I guess, the crime or whatever, or traffic violations? Is that how y'all monitor that? Is that part of what we're asking for, patrol outside of just traffic?
Yeah, so patrol, the normal patrol, which we already do, right? Most of that is done at night because we're looking for burglars and, during the daytime, you guys are during god-awful hours in the morning, you're walking. Usually, you guys have a great system where if you see somebody that's not supposed to be here or something's going on, you call us and we come, and that's a benefit to us to have all these eyes paying attention. What would change is we respond to traffic complaints. So if I'm getting complaints from residents in Arlington Ridge, and they say, hey, there's people running stop signs between the hours of 6 and 9. Yeah, I will put an officer out there between 6 and 9 and monitor it, or use the aforementioned traffic solutions that we put out there to monitor that. So directed patrol, which is, we know there's a problem. If we were allowed to enforce traffic in here, we would do more of that upon your request. But it's a needs of the, so if I've got 10 of them lined up, you guys are on the list, and we'll get there when we can. So it wouldn't be every day it's happening. But if there's a problem, if there's a group of walkers and they're like, look, this is happening a lot, we address that issue in a very timely manner.
Let me ask, in regard to that, on patrols, right now, you don't have scheduled patrols through here, okay? No. And is that part of being public-private, if we were public? No, not really, so.
No, we don't, so the officers are assigned to different sectors within the city, right? And then they have beats within those sectors. Right. And then they patrol and it needs to be random. We don't want bad guys knowing they're gonna be in the Legacy from 2 to 2:30 or whatever. So it's always a random patrol. And then it's what calls for service they have. If they're on calls, obviously they can't do that. So whenever they're not on a call, that's when they do the patrol. So there's no set schedule.
We have a lot of eyes in here, so we're very fortunate. And I don't know, let me ask, can y'all arrest pigs? Spotting pigs
that would be if they're
friendly area.
If they're domestic, that would be an animal control question. If they're wild, no. We cannot.
If you land a bull, go down the street. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. And I have a couple questions.
You're gonna get yelled at. Oh, it was quick.
Better?
Yes.
Can we request times for police to be in here?
You can request it.
So, you have a blindfold, and we would like to have you ticket everybody from the 1 o'clock. Or we have a pool party, and we would like you to ticket all the people that are there with their licenses.
Do you represent the beer club? I don't know what rivalries are happening. No, and I understand what you're saying, and we do get that. Lieutenant Romanelli has 30 years of law enforcement, and when he gets requests for directed patrols, which that would be, we kind of get what's going on with that. And so, no, we're not gonna be targeting, we get a lot of ex-wives or ex-husbands or saying, hey, there's something going on at the girlfriend or boyfriend's house. So, no, you might get us the first time, but we'll adjust quickly.
So the folks are safe.
Yes.
No, Connie, you got one more. Go. Go ahead. You got one more. Last one.
I just wanted to clarify one thing.
You need to lift your mic down.
I just wanted to clarify one thing that I was a little bit confused on. You're gonna base your decision on whether to take this to the commission on what happens here at the meeting, rather than the overwhelming response we've gotten so far, is that correct?
I think the overwhelming response that I've received so far would be, you guys don't want the streets to be public. So then I would say, no, you shouldn't bring the resolution before the body, which is the commission. Now, if then you go and garner support and show that there is more support than what's in the room, then that would be reconsidered. But, so I would say the immediate side effect from what's evident today would be, no, we wouldn't bring the resolution before the commission.
Can people still send emails to the commission or the police department voicing their concerns?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the procedural things that Mr. Mayor was talking about was, if you spoke to and you had your own survey and you said, okay, I got 1,800 responses, at that point when you come forward, if everyone's not in the room, you can get your 3 minutes and say, hey, we spoke out, the survey results are this, and then the commission weighs them for what they believe that is. But apathy is rampant everywhere. So you're not gonna get the people who don't want it, the people who do want it, kind of combating, and those people in the middle aren't really gonna come forward and say anything, and that's how all governance works.
Right, I just want to make sure that, if it goes before the commission, you're gonna listen to what people say at the meeting, rather than the emails that you receive. Voicing one.
I would take into consideration, what I'm getting from today, what I've got from the emails in the past, what I would hear at the commission meeting itself, but I absolutely welcome everyone to reach out to me by phone or email with your opinion or your thought process of, what you're thinking on all of this.
What's your email?
Thank you.
I've got a handful of business cards here.
Yeah, I mean,
Fill them out.
and I think that in a nutshell, organizationally, what you see is the city manager and the chief saying, our professional recommendation to the governing body, the city commission, is ambivalence. I don't think, from our standpoint, taxes is neutral, service levels are still gonna look and feel the same, because everything works. So, from the chief, when you asked him, do you have a preference, and he was ambivalent about, well, that wasn't a sidestep of the question. This is as ambivalent as it gets. What is moving the meter right now is the public input that we've gotten, and the public input is no, 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 no. And if that public input changes to do this, do this, do this, do this, then yeah, the resolution could go before the body.
So can I offer a?
We have more people who want to talk too.
Okay,
So-
let me give you an alternative solution to the specific problem that was brought my way. So there are things Arlington Ridge employs this, and Plantation employs, and it's called an LPR. It's a license plate reader, right? And the HOA buys it. They're as a group thing, they're not overly expensive. We're looking at moving into them through Vigilant. That's one of the companies. Flock is another company. So there are things that you can do, right? And so you can do this on your own, where you can set up an LPR, or there's also a camera that captures LPRs, and you can put them on your problem roadways. And you can put them up in plain view so everybody sees them. You can also attach some of them come with radar or laser technology, the same technology that we use. That captures the license plate and a picture of the vehicle. So if a certain company or companies are coming through, you guys control that data. You would then be able to download that picture and go, this van at this time was going 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. It would have the tag, so they know what driver it is. And they're consumer, they're a company, they have to respond to that. And so instead of just saying, hey, company A, your drivers are always speeding, you would have documented information. Many subdivisions and construction sites, they use those tools. And so that is an option for
Do they get tickets?
you guys as well. It's not a citation. What you're doing is you're sending to that company so that their drivers are warned. It won't take long before they go, well, the Legacy's got a camera in there with a thing, and that driver's gonna get fined, or that driver's gonna, because they're just not gonna wanna deal with the problem. So that is a partial solution to that.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay, we have other people who are waiting.
I think you've answered all the questions. We're still going to accept emails from people outside of whatever happens.
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Quick question. When you referenced the email traffic that you got, you said it was overwhelmingly against doing anything. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you give me some numbers? Like, is it 4 out of 5? Is it 30 out of 40? Is it?
I'd roughly say we received 50 emails.
I'm sorry, 1-5 or
5-0. This is roughly.
Yeah,
rough.
I'm just curious. What?
Maybe 50 emails and 45 did not want the streets to become public.
Okay, so that's overwhelming.
When did you get these?
Yes. Thank you.
I would say over the course maybe the last 2 months.
Yes.
Will you be asking for a vote in this group today?
No, people speak. No.
Hi,
Hello.
you guys know me, the three of you, I've not met you before. My name is Jeanette Kelly. Paul Kelly is my husband. And we have been an active part of trying to, through positivity, get people to stop at stop signs, use their signals, obey the speeding. My question is this, and I need to give you just a tad of history so you can answer the question. We have been involved in 2 very egregious, I guess you would call that criminal activity, and didn't know what our recourse was. And this is why we reached out to the board and asked them how we could do something about this, because we have had people run over in here, whether they were walking or on bicycles, many times. So my question is this: when I was driving my golf cart, which has every bell and whistle you can have, I was going 20 miles an hour down Meandering Trail. There were people walking correctly toward the traffic in the bicycle lane. A gentleman came up behind me, and I'm not going to move over when there are people in that lane, and he was aggressively doing this. There were people coming at me walking in the bicycle lane. You understand that on Meandering Trail. So he goes around me, honks his horn, goes around me on the right-hand side and gives me the finger. So when he turned into a part of the development, I couldn't go right in and look for him because I had volunteerism here in the community to do here. But I tried to ask people if they knew who it was, because I was going to ask him to please not be aggressively driving in here. He could have, those people were very close to him. He was so bent on flying down the Meandering Trail that he had no regard for the people that were on their bicycles or walking, or for the 2 people in the golf cart. What, if he had hit me or those people, what would I have done? I would call the police, right? You guys would come, but you aren't going to issue a ticket because we don't.
No, what you described is reckless driving. And that didn't happen in our, that's another, one of the things, reckless driving or all traffic citations, with the exception of crashes, have to occur in our presence. So in that case, somebody gets run over and we have a witness saying he was driving aggressively, then that person, then we would work, it would be a criminal citation, it would be criminal reckless driving. So, but that requires a couple of different things. Just because a pedestrian gets hit, it doesn't mean the driver could have been, looked in his rearview mirror and swerved off and hit something tragic, horrible, right, but not criminal. But for what you just described, honking, being aggressive, and then going around you and then striking somebody, that's a criminal offense, and we would absolutely work that.
So regardless of whether we get you to come in here and help us or not.
Correct. We would work that today. We would
Yes,
work that
but you
scenario.
can also bring in the wagon, which you've done at our request many times, that shows the speed limit
Mhm.
of the person, and you put it in various places, and you would continue to do that for the residents who want to try to have a safer community.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
and what Al referred to before too was there has never been a case where we were able to make adults act like adults and make jerks act like nice people. People are just like that, but that's a specific scenario, and that part is why we have informational meetings, which is good, is about what we can and cannot do, and in the situation described, we can work that and we can do it. So that's just a matter of communication and education.
Thank you, and thank you all for your
Thank you.
service to all of us.
Thanks.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Appreciate you guys coming in today. My question, we're fairly new here, so I really didn't know anything about this until just a few days ago. And I'm not sure exactly why we're doing all this. In a quick synopsis, can you tell us what the advantages and disadvantages are?
You already did.
So I'll recap for everybody. So the advantages would be we can do directed patrol. We can write tickets to the drivers that are speeding up and down. We can again give you traffic crash reporting. We can do that stuff for you. So those are the advantages. There's no disadvantage from my perspective, but there's a disadvantage from some people's perspective that don't want to worry about that I have one glass of wine or two before I go in the golf cart to the next road, or there's reasons that people don't want police doing traffic enforcement. I think when I retire, I'm going to move to one of those communities, so because my guys will be looking for me. But no, again, the ambivalence that was referred to is legitimate. There's no harm either way. It's what makes you guys feel safer. That's what we're here to do. We're here to reduce the fear of crime and restore public safety and those kind of things. So whatever you guys want us to do, we're here to do. So there's no aha or on either side.
But as far as
I feel like you want me to say something.
no, I'm not.
You pulled a new here trick and then.
You guys can come in anytime there's a crime or anything.
Yes. Yes.
So any of that, you're already going to be here.
Correct.
So the only thing you're going to be here is to patrol for speeding or
That's it.
whatever.
That's the only thing that we're bringing up today, and I wanted to address it at the beginning, and that is it. Literally, can we write you a speeding or stop sign ticket? That's it.
I just want to ask a quick, I
Yes.
want to make a quick clarification with you guys. Just real quick. What I'm hearing from you is the community would never even know that this had happened pretty much until they got a ticket. You don't plan on setting up speed traps,
No.
okay? There's not gonna be any speed traps or any.
Well, wait a minute now. If you ask us to set up a speed
If
trap.
citizens call you and give you a legitimate reason, because I don't see the board ever saying, come out here, that's not our job. Not our job.
No, it's not.
You can see we have a rather raucous group of people. Maybe there was a wine club meeting earlier.
Come on, that
Anyway,
was good, that was good.
I just want to make sure that we're all clear that what is going to happen if the commission chooses to do this is basically you will have the ability to write tickets.
Yeah.
And write reports, but
Yes.
you don't intend to come in and, as one old social media post said, drag Granny out of the car and give her with the taser, right?
Correct. We're
Okay.
trying to do that. So, but here's the thing too, and what I said, I understand people feel that way. And as the police chief for everybody in the community, that's why we have to have informational meetings, because I'm not here to negate anybody's feelings. And I understand people think that something bad's gonna happen, or we're gonna target people, and we're gonna do that. And just like I said, I can tell you, we're not setting up speed traps. But my definition of a speed trap and somebody else's is different. So if you're asking me to do targeted patrol on meandering trail from this hour to this hour, well, that's a speed trap. But its intention is, we know these are going on. So that's the deal. In the cons, I know people get really, we've got some of those emails that you were talking about, and I responded to every email I've gotten. And so I wanted to, because of some of that misinformation that was going around. So again, just talking about the only change would be being able to issue a citation. That's it, nothing else changes.
I just want to review for a second. From what you're saying, if you come in here and you have the ability to give traffic violations, that would include golf carts, pedestrians,
yes,
bicyclists,
yes,
as well as automobiles.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're a private community. This has nothing to do with you. We all bought into this community and signed a contract with the community. It's called our bylaws. And our bylaws can be changed, again, based on vote. They can stay the way they are. But we give violations now. If I change the paint color on my house without getting mark approval, I can get fined. We have a neighborhood patrol, which is probably very good. I know that other communities have used the model of our patrol when we first started. And the first thing we said to the woman that came up here and said she follows the guy to his house is you never approach a violator. You're creating a situation where it could cause more damage.
I would agree with that.
Okay. So, in reality, we could enforce this ourselves. Again, I like your suggestion about that tag reader.
LPR.
Yeah. But we can enforce it ourselves by simple regulations that said, if you're turned into, I'm not saying an example, if somebody complains about you to the board, or to the community, to the camp, and the camp sends a letter saying, please don't do it again, even if it's a company, and they do it again, if you're a resident here, we could fine them. We don't need the police person to fine them, we can fine them. That's in our bylaws. So